Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakha Kadash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Gremial Song, and enough respect to the brothers out there pushing and spreading the truth, just like you, which is the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem, Shai, to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Shai, I just want to bring out some information in this article, which is entitled How Barack Obama bombed the Paris of Africa into a hellhole of murder, slave trade, sex trafficking, and mass starvation. Now, before we get into that, I want to bring out Job 9, chapter 9, verse 24, which says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not where, and who is he? Right? So we're going to identify the wicked, how the wicked has control over the world, and how the wicked acts surreptitiously, right? He acts to the intent that he may deceive people, and change the courses of the world in his favor. Another precept is Habakkuk, the second chapter, right? Which says what? Behold, his soul, the wicked, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. It says, yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, right? He don't keep at home, just like we're going to read. These men have no business whatsoever interfering, in the politics of another nation. So they neither keep at home. They enlarge, who enlarges his desire as hell, right? So whatever they want to do, they just straight up invade another man's country, toss up whatever they want to do, and then what? And then take whatever they want, and then leave that place a mess as long as they have what it is that they came for. So they enlarge their desires as hell, right? Because there's never a point in history where America has said, okay, we have enough, let's stop, let's leave the world alone, and just deal with all the wealth that we have. Babylon always wants more. They always want what doesn't belong to them, and they always want more. So much so that nobody can actually give, and no one actually has what Babylon needs. Everybody has what Babylon wants, but no one has enough for Babylon to say, okay, I'm content. That's why they enlarge their desires hell. The grave can never be filled. People die every day, but there's never not a place to bury someone. All right. So it says, and it's as death, right? They are as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. For 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his, and how long, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, with debt. Okay? Now, I'm going to read the title again. The title is How Barack Obama Bombed the Paris of Africa into a hellhole of murder, slave trade, sex trafficking, and mass starvation. All right. It says, first, Obama falsely portrayed Gaddafi as a monster. Then he lied about the need for harsh sanctions to punish him for crimes he never committed. And finally, he launched an illegal war under a pretext as phony as Lyndon Johnson's Tonkin Gulf resolution and George W. Bush's weapons of mass destruction. So this man, even though he's a Hamite, all right, this this man here, he's a Hamite. His actions are dictated by Edomites, because remember, for those of you who don't know, George Soros, one of the members of the elites, okay, who have mass amounts of money and control the world, he put Obama in office. Okay, he funded him. He did all that he can to put Obama in office. He was part of this. He is the reason that Obama got into office, pretty much, and he'll tell you that himself. But nevertheless, he has a lot of money. Okay, let's see. But let's not get into it right now. Whenever you see a poster of the elites, when you look at camp and you see all the posters of these Edomites and how they and these elite Edomites who rule the world, his picture is part of it. All right. So it says, once upon a time, in a faraway land that was very rich because of its oil, a bad king kept his people in poverty and subjected women to sexual and domestic abuse. But after many years of oppression, a charismatic young officer overthrew the bad king in a bloodless revolution that lasted less than 2 hours, in which nobody died. Even the bad king was allowed to live in his luxurious villa, surrounded by family and servants, until he died peacefully of old age many years later at age 93. The dashing young officer quickly abolished the monarchy and established a People's Congress. He threw open the royal treasury and distributed its riches to the people so that they prospered. A free home was guaranteed to every citizen, and college education was also free. He was so was medical care, and if the country's own doctors couldn't cure your illness, the government paid the cost of sending you to a country where they could. Okay? It's Edomites, man. They would not let anybody live in peace. It says, happy were the people, but happiest of all were the women. The new government not only liberated them from sexual and domestic abuse, it also granted them full and equal rights with men. And they won more than half the seats of the People's Congress. The above may sound like a fairy tale, but it actually happened. In 1969, 27-year-old Colonel Muammar Gaddafi overthrew the Libyan monarch Mohammed Idris bin Mohammed al-Mahdi as-Sanusi in a bloodless coup that took less than 2 hours, in which no one died, and the Libyan people received all the benefit described above. All right. It says, no. It says, however, the fairy tale did not have a happy ending because what, Esau got up in there, you know, and you Jakes out there, man, who keep thinking Obama was your savior. He ain't your savior, man. Obama did not change your circumstances. Obama is not a representation of your prosperity. He is a fucking puppet. He's wicked, okay? He's a wicked ruler. He's just charismatic, and he's very good he's very good at feigning himself to be like like non-threatening. He puts your guard down, with his charms and all these things. But you ought to be smarter than that. Okay, look past physical appearance and listen past the soothing sound of another man and the mere words that come out of his mouth, and consider really who it is that you're dealing with. And then you'll find the true nature of any man. It says Western powers were not pleased to see the Libyan people enjoying the benefits of their extensive oil reserve, right? Because this is what Esau wants, from that nation. But when Gaddafi came in, he nationalized the oil reserves and he made it exclusive to the people. So Babylon was mad. Why are they mad? Because they enlarge their desires as hell. Why are they mad? Because they keep it not at home. They already have oil. They have enough oil. But they want so much, man. They want all the oil in the world. Like it. It says Western powers were not pleased to see the Libyan people enjoying the benefits of their extensive oil reserves, which the colonial powers had been virtually stealing for themselves for decades under King Idris. And this is this man here. This man that you see right here. This is a man that was overthrew. It says in return for helping him remain in power, right? Right, wicked. Here it is. They would, as long as they get what they want, they'll put anybody in there, even if that guy slaughters his own people. Even if that guy steals from his own people. The scripture says that what, listen, O ye kings, the power that you have comes from the Most High, and you must rule in righteousness. It says the king uh, also allowed Britain and U.S. to open military bases in the country. They keepeth not at home. You know, they enlarged it. I'm telling you, man, this article, it's like all the information in here, right? All the information in here is what we're going to be reading in the article. It says, oh, Slovakia. Yep. The Western powers wanted those good days to return. For that, they had to get rid of Gaddafi, who had not only nationalized the Libya's oil for the benefit of his people, but was also planning to start a pan-African currency that could help turn African nations into producers of high-value products instead of being exploited by the West merely as suppliers of raw material. So they nationalized their oil, right? Which means that, well, you can't just go in and build your own company and start taking the country's oil. No, it's a natural resource of the country. It is nationalized. You must deal with the government so that what, so that you're not how do I put it? So that you're not finessing the people, you know, so that you're not you don't monopolize the country's wealth. You just go in there and do whatever it is that you want. So that's what it means, what, to nationalize it, you know. That was no, so like that was a reason he nationalized it. So he's also he was also planning to stand up a Pan African currency. Here it is, but you know sometimes too these guys are so, you know, they don't know prophecy. I mean, I get it. You know, this is the plan of a foolish man, pretty much. Those who seek to overthrow Esau in a carnal way as such, you know. A lot of these so-called black leaders out here think they're so fucking smart, and that Esau is just gonna sit around and let you do this shit. Or a lot of people think that they're so smart that even if Esau ain't going, even if they have to fight Esau to achieve this, that they can do it without the blessing of Yahweh Bashim Yashai. The Most High said that what? The end of the world is Esau's rulership. Esau is supposed to rule, and the only one, right, that honor to take Esau out of power belongs to Yahweh Shai and the saints that come with him. You ain't gonna take him, and you're not gonna take Babylon or Europe down and what the hell do you think this is, man? And take the glory. You got your goddamn mind. But like I said, man, they don't know prophecy. They're ignorant. You know. It says that could help turn African nations into producers of high value products, and a high value product is simply something that already has value, but because you turn it into something else, it has more value. You know, like you may have a banana, but if you blend that shit and you put you put it in a plastic cup, now it's worth 10 times more than an actual banana. Or you may have a lump of gold, but when you furnace it, right? When you put in you put it in a, whatever it is you put it in, and you turn it into a bracelet or a necklace or a ring, it's worth more than the actual lump of gold. Or you can have plutonium, but you can use that material and create a nuclear plant, create energy out of it. Now that new thing that you've made is a high value product, or in other words, it's a value added product. So they wanted to subject what African nations only as what raw supplies of raw materials. They wanted them, to just you have the riches, right? Just dig it and give it to us, and we'll turn it into something more valuable. You don't got to worry about that. And that's how Esau Edom wants the rest of the world to be. For those of you who work with Edomites, you'll notice that when you're working with them, these men really don't want to teach you things. Because I'm a technician, and we build a lot of machines, but I noticed that I actually had to like jump through a lot of hoops, to learn certain things, because these Edomites, they will give you like vague instructions, because they'll have you, they'll give you vague instructions to where you barely get the job done, but you don't really truly understand it. So you always have to go to him if something complex happens, so that you rely on them. That way they keep the power over you, and that's what they do. So we had to go in, and sometimes you're gonna have to sit there and read like 200 pages, a manual, like a freaking manual, a binder, just to learn how the machine works, because these men are hoarding knowledge. They don't want to teach you. So that's pretty much how it is with these Edomites. It says their first steps had to was to crush the Libyan economy with punitive sanctions. On March 4th, expert witnesses testified at an international people's tribunal on U.S. imperialism, and this organization here is just a small group of people who, like I said, who are like activists. They hold no political power. They really have no freaking influence, because nobody truly knows who these guys are. It's just a group of people who meet together, and just they make website like this, to try um, to educate the people, but really it's to no avail. But that's pretty much what they are. It's not. This isn't the International People's Tribunal on U.S. imperialism isn't something so big. That sounds intimidating. You know, even to the Edomites. I mean, to the Edomites, it's just a big ass name for a small group of people, a small group of activists. So I just had to put that there. So it says on March 4th, an expert witness testified at an international people's tribunal on U.S. imperialism about the adverse impact of sanctions on Libya imposed by the United States since the 1970s, and how they set the groundwork for the 2011 U.S. NATO invasions that destroyed Libya. Organized by an assortment of peace and social justice organizations, the hearing were part of a series that aimed to spotlight the pernicious impact of U.S. sanctions on 16 countries in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, arguing that such sanctions function as a key tool of U.S. imperialism, right? Because ultimately, sanction is a sanction is a tactic known as soft power. Yeah, no, actually, no, not no. Propaganda is known as is known as soft power. But just let me um right. It says the phrase soft power, right, meaning the phrase power deriving from economic and cultural influence rather than coercion, or military strength. Okay, yeah. So soft power. So sanction is, it's a um it's sanctions are in a sense a source of attrition, so a force of attrition. So yeah, it's not soft power, but nevertheless, America does influence other countries, you know, through propaganda, their television shows. They'll push their philosophies around the entire world, and they'll do it without actually having to use an army to re-educate people. America is very good at that, but it says the sanction functions as a key tool of U.S. imperialism. So this is actually, it's not sanctions. It's not a soft power tactic. Okay, so just forgive me for that. So it says the latter was certainly the case with regard to Libya, on which the Nixon administration began implying sanctions in 1971, 2 years after Gaddafi's revolution against King Idris, who had ruled Libya from 1955 to 1969. After he came to power, Gaddafi very rapidly removed the massive U.S. military bases at Wheelers, along with a British military base, and took measures to nationalize Libya's oil industry so that the oil reserves could be used to develop Libya's economy. Gaddafi later set up a base, to train Arab and African liberation and Palestinian resistance fighters, and try to advance Pan-African unity and South Atlantic Treaty Organization, SATO, that could rival the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Of course, brothers who are, are knowledgeable in prophecy know that the reason this didn't work is because that's not how Esau was prophesied to fall. It says because of his independent policies, resistance to foreign colonialism, and threat that he would free Africa From the chokehold of of dollar dominance, Gaddafi was for decades a target of Western regime change operations and sanctions. At the tribunal, Hazima al-Tumi, a Libyan engineer and military expert, detailed how the United States sanctions specifically target the aviation industry in an attempt to weaken its economy and military. After the sanctions were imposed, Libya could no longer obtain many of the spare parts it needed to repair planes and had to drastically cut the number of domestic flights. Libyans had to drive to neighborhood countries to fly. Wow. You know, it says Libyan Arab Airlines suffered considerably because U.S. sanctions beginning in 1970s. Um, Many pilots had to leave the country. Uh, Many pilots had to leave the country, and the whole economy suffered with a lack of investment in new airports. Furthermore, at least one plane crashed because it did not have the proper safety equipment. There were many more road accidents because the people had to always travel by roads, and the people suffering from medical emergencies died because they could not be airlifted to hospitals due to dearth, okay, of airplanes. When we look at the word dearth, let's look it up. It's probably shorted. Yep, a scarcity or lack of something. So because so it caused what a scarcity of airplanes and what and helicopters. On the military side, Al-Tumi emphasized that Libya could not upgrade its air defense system because of the lack of spare parts, making it vulnerable to foreign invasions. During the U.S. NATO attack in 2011, it could not effectively fight back. The training of pilots in countries had to be hampered, and the Libyan Air Force planes were grounded. Man, brutal, all because of greed. Because what he enlarges his desire as hell, he cannot be satisfied. He heapeth unto him all nations, man. He steals, you know. It says, a sum, a Cargley, a PhD student at the University of Illinois, read a statement prepared by a former Minister of Health under Gaddafi, Mustafa Zaid, who emphasized that the sanctions were a new type of war waged by the West on Libya that affects regular people by restricting access to quality healthcare and travel and makes bank transfers very difficult. Libyan people and institutions could not buy items they needed, including advanced medical equipment, because in the U.S., including advanced medical equipment made in the United States, like MRI machines and CT scanners. Let me jump to the main point. Um, they stage an attack and blame it on the Libyan government. They blame it on Gaddafi. It says Libya was blamed for the downing of Pan. I don't know if I can highlight. Yep, for Pan Am flight over Lock. Um, damn, I'm trying to highlight this. All right, over Lockerbie, Scotland, in December 1988, without proof, and that's what Esau does. He'll weaken you. He will fabricate stories about you, and then he will get the whole world to support him to kill you. It says a fraudulent pretext. The U.S. and the UN expanded sanctions on Libya in early 1990s under the pretext that Libya had carried out bombings. That Libya had carried out the bombing of a Pan Am flight over Lockerbie, Scotland, in December 1988, right when there was no proof of this. The case against a Libyan intelligence officer, whose name I'm not going to pronounce, is fucking ridiculous. It says who was slacking, not ridiculous, but it's gonna be ridiculous for me to try to pronounce it. It says who was accused of masterminding the Lockerbie bombing, depending on an unreliable Libyan defector and forensic evidence that proved to be false. It's a Scottish law professor, Robert Black, called McGree's trial the most disgraceful miscarriage of justice in Scotland for hundreds of years, right? So they lied on it, but it is in 1986, another fraudulent pretext was adopted to justify U.S. aerial attack under President Reagan. Gaddafi was accused of bombing the La Belle Discoche in West Germany and killing two American soldiers. The chief of the anti-terrorism police in West Berlin concluded after investigating the La Belle Discoche bombing that the police had no hard evidence, let alone proof, that Libya had been involved, right? So they just pulling shit out their ass, man, and they just blaming their enemies because they want reason to go in and what and fuck shit up. It says when the case went to trial, the prosecution at the trial was unable to provide that Colonel Gaddafi was behind the bombing, a failure the court blamed on limited willingness of German and U.S. governments to share intelligent information. German investigators later uncovered that check this out that Musba Etbe, a Libyan agent who was part of the group that allegedly carried out the bombing, ran a CIA front operation in Malta. So they had their own agents man staging these attacks and had long worked for the CIA. He may have been acting, but here's this though: there was no justice. No one called for justice. When it came to America. It says he may have been acting as a provocateur who orchestrated a black flag attack designed to provide a pretext for U.S. bombing of Libya and a ratcheting up of deadly sanctions. Which we anticipate that's what they're gonna do to the ministry. That's what they're gonna do to us. They're just gonna put people in it as agent provocateurs and just start some shit, and then eventually the ministry is blamed, and then eventually the men of the Lord are persecuted. It says the U.S. sanctions directed against Libya were designed to weaken the country in order to prepare the way for 2011 invasions, which was based on lies and deceit. A lot of disaffection against Gaddafi in Libya, because after a while the people were tired. Here it is. This man tried to be strong, and he tried to be strong, and push through all these lies and deceit and sanction, but his people, they couldn't. They became weak, they were weary, and all of a sudden they called for this man to go down, and that's why there was a lot of disaffection against Gaddafi in Libya. That the U.S. So a lot of the disaffection against Gaddafi in Libya that the U.S. and Great Britain and France tried to exploit was a result of the sanctions policy, because they blamed this man of not being able to take care of the country. They'll do airstrikes, and then they'll blame this man of killing his own people. They'll blame this man of going to another man's country and doing bombings, which were never reported on in the West. The 2011 uprising in Benghazi was led by Islamists and evolved very quickly into an armed struggle against Gaddafi's government, which was legitimate in the eyes of most of the Libyan people. President Barack Obama, this Hamite man, his black ass. President Barack Obama nevertheless said Gaddafi should go. Stories were fabricated that Gaddafi was massacring his people and was about to commit genocide, when in fact it was the rebel forces and the United States NATO bombing that killed a massive number of civilians. Habakkuk chapter 2, starting from what? Starting from verse 7. Shall they not, they, meaning the victims of the work of Esau Edom, shall they not rise up suddenly, that shall bite thee, and awake that vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? And that's why it's so easy for what? For Russia to just go about and make allies. Because people are harboring a massive hatred for Babylon. They have not forgotten these things that was done in their country. And I'm going to bring another article as to what they did in Central America. Was it Yep. It says that to the Banana Republic. So what they did over there. But for now, let's deal with this one. You know, so yeah, a lot of people are praying for the downfall. That's why the scripture says in Isaiah the 14th chapter that hell is moved. Let me get that right now. I don't want to butcher it. Right, it says what? All right. Um, Let me read the translation. It says, even the cypresses, right, and the cedars of Lebanon rejoice over you, since you have been what? You have been laid low. No lumberjack has come against us, right? Because people are getting vexed, man, under the rulership of Esau Edom. It says, hell, okay, Sheol, below is eager to greet you at your coming, because what you deserve, and you deserve to be in a hellish state. That's where you belong. um It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. All right. It says, even all the chief ones of the earth, it has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought low to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? And this is what we look forward to. I hope Yahweh Bashim Shai speeds up the destruction of Esau Edom and everybody that's in league with them. The wickedness must end. And when it's time, when the wickedness of Esau Edom is accomplished, people are going to be so full of joy, man. That's why for eternity, people are going to be talking about this. People are going to be talking about how Babylon was brought down, man, burnt to the ground, not to a crisp, to ash. No, not even to ash. Even ash is going to be burnt up. It was torn apart on an atomic level. It's going to be torn apart on an atomic level, you know? So, yeah, man. It's going to be for eternity. No one is ever going to say, "Oh man, I'm tired of this story now." you know, you're going to have people all over the world just gathering together, parading, and they're going to be hearing the story over and over again, like we do now, in Sodom and Gomorrah, like we do for Egypt, like we do for when the Mosai destroyed the world with the flood. So with that, I hope edification goes out, destroy these freaking Edomites, man. All right, and establish the righteous kingdom of Israel, which is ruled by Yahweh Shai with the blessing of Yahweh. So with that, I want to end it right there. Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Shai Brakatham. To all you brothers and sisters out there that are watching in truth and sincerity, I want to say Shalom, Yahweh Bashim Shai Brakatham. May the blessing of legend be upon our houses, man. And I know this was boring and a lot of reading, but the water for staying through it, and I really hope this was edifying, so Shalom. Yahweh Bashim Shai Brakatham.